All right, hopefully we're ready to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is, and I know we looked at this a little yesterday, but I want to start here today. This is that right here. You can either bring it up yourself or just watch. I tried to make it big enough that hopefully you can both see it okay. But it's also right there if you want to bring it up in your own machine. Okay, so as it says, it's creating dynamic lists with RecyclerView, and it's on the developer.android site. Okay, I don't want to read to you. You know, hopefully, why we're using a RecyclerView. Okay, and again, unlike a list view, which has to allocate space for every element, a RecyclerView just has enough, allocates enough space for a screen full. And as things go off the screen, the area that was lost, it gets, you replace a new one with the one that was lost. And that's what it says here. It doesn't destroy its view, rather it reuses the view for new items. Okay. Now, it says here, several different classes work together. We've talked about these, but let's just take a couple minutes to look at them. All right. As it says, RecyclerView contains the views that correspond to your data. The view itself, so you can add a RecyclerView into your layout. That's what we did yesterday, if you remember. We took that avatar and we put that out there and all the other stuff. All right. Each individual element in the list, so in our case, each individual president is defined by a view holder. All right. You are responsible for associating the data with it. And it says, after it's been created, it binds to its data. All right, you define this by extending RecyclerView.viewHolder. We will hopefully at least be doing that today. The RecyclerView, as it says, requests those views and does the binding. You define the adapter. So again, much of the stuff we're going to do in the next few minutes is going to, is going to involve us going in and just copying some code. All right. So, says if you're going to use RecyclerView, there's a few things you'll be required to do. First of all, decide what the list or grid is going to look like. We've already done that. All right, next, design how each element is going to look and behave. Based on this design, the view holder, as it says, extend the view holder class. We're going to do that in a minute. Our version of view holder, as it says, will provide all the functionality for the list. Plus, it's got those 3 views that we looked at yesterday that you must go and bring into your program. Finally, define the adapter that associates your data with the view holder views. Now, it says there's also advanced customization. I'm not going to talk about that other than to tell you that you can do things like animate. So if we wanted our items, as our presidents came in, we want them to bounce up and down. I mean, to me, that this isn't the right application for that. That said, maybe that's something you would want to look at for your restaurant thing. I'm not saying it is, but maybe it is. Because you can do a lot of CSS-like effects, so you can have things fade in and out type of thing. All right, so depending on what you're doing, it might be something you're interested in or not. So the items in the RecyclerView, as it says, are arranged by a layout class. Okay, we've kind of done some of this stuff already. So it says the linear layout manager arranges them in a one-dimensional list. You can also use a grid if you want to for a two-dimensional list. We're not doing that. All right. Once you've determined the layout, you need to implement the adapter and the view holder. That's what we're going to do right now. As it says, they work together. The view holder, as it says, is a wrapper around the view. And remember, everything that you do in Android, everything you put on the screen and the screen itself, they're all views. Everything. Put a button on, it's a view. Put the button on the screen, the button's a view, the screen's a view, etc. All right. So as they mentioned there, the adapter class creates view holder objects as needed. So when you define your adapter, you need to override these 3 methods. We started looking at this yesterday, and again, this is in the code down below. So on create view holder, as it says, it gets called whenever you need to create a new view holder. You can read the rest of it yourself. On bind view holder, as it says, it's called to associate a view holder with the data. And in many ways, it's, you may or may not agree with this, but it's like, This is a hell of a lot of work to not do very much. But it's the way that it's set up. That's all I can tell you. And the item count, again, is the simplest one. Now, we're probably going to implement our item count a little bit differently than they do, but it's not a big problem anyway. So, as it says there, we want to create a new class. Now, we're going to do all this stuff in here. We're going to copy every single thing that's in here. We'll probably end up changing quite a bit of it, okay? But we are going to go in and copy virtually everything that's in here. I've got my notes here because I'm trying to follow along in both of these, so where am I? All right. First of all, before we even do any of this, what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to, or like you guys, to go into main activity. I'm already there. All right. Now, underneath our list, doesn't matter where we do it, but we're going to do it here. Whoops. So we're going to add 3 private variables in here. Now I'm going to put in here RecyclerView, so of course it's going to give me that error because it is not yet, it doesn't know anything about that. All right, so RecyclerView, private RecyclerView dot adapter, M adapter, and finally private RecyclerView dot layout manager and layout manager, not layout manager, layout. All right. So as you'd probably guess, this is the RecyclerView itself. We're just calling it RecyclerView. This is the adapter that we're going to use basically to glue everything together. And this is the layout manager for the RecyclerView. Probably not a lot of surprises right there. Okay. And after I put the last one in, it did put in the imports someplace in here. I don't know which one of these it is, but it put in one of those imports for me. Okay. In fact, I guess it's this one here. All right. You'll notice too, I just want you to see this. You see how that ends with Android X? Basically what that means is it's newer, for lack of better words. Now, one of the things, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to give you a little history. I know it's not a big thing, you don't need to know, but I want to mention it to you anyway. We made a decision, I think, Mr. Smith and I both did, that when we talked about Java, like we did at the beginning of the semester, we'd spend 1 to a maximum of 2 weeks and no more on Java. And then what we decided to do based on that was we weren't going to go into GUIs. We were just going to give you basically console type of Java apps. But just like you can do a GUI app in Visual Studio and C#, and we did those, you can do Java GUI apps. Well, who cares? Well, there's a reason for me actually telling you this. That Java used to have a mantra that was write once, run everywhere. And the idea is it was supposed to look pretty much the same on any platform. So if you ran it on a Mac, you ran it on a Linux box, if you ran it on a mainframe, if you ran it on a tablet, everything would look the same. Now, granted, the screen size and stuff is different, but it was going to look the same. Well, it didn't. Especially with Mac, because Mac moves in positions and makes a lot of GUI controls differently than Windows does. So what was decided was, plus these controls, the way that they were written, they were pigs as far as they took up a lot of room that technically they didn't have to take up. They were what were called heavyweight components. So quite a few years ago, the people who designed the Java language decided they were going to do some rewrite. All right? And when they did the rewrite, for example, there is a button, okay, that's under java.widget.button, okay? But there's a newer button that's called a swing button, which is javax.widget.button. See what I'm saying? So there were a bunch of controls they created with an X. For whatever reason, they used X. And they were swing controls. They were designed to be more lightweight in the way they were set up behind the scenes, so they were less memory intensive. And they were designed to look better. They were designed to look better with every single type of operating system you could run the thing on. So the idea is that X at least kind of means the same thing, in that it's something that's newer. So notice there's all these. It's not that these are old. It's just that basically they've done some rewrite over time with the recycler view. The recycler view, again, is a fairly new component. All right? Don't know if that helped, didn't help, but all right. So we've added this stuff in here. Well, one thing that we are going to have to do for right now at least is this actual recycler view itself. We're going to come down and where we've got all of our find view by IDs, which aren't many, it's just the one. We're now going to say recycler view, there, find view by ID, r.id. Do I have anything that's called recycler view? I don't know. Well, what do we have in here? We've got RV presidents, right? That's our recycler view. You may or may not remember that. And if you used my names, that's what your name is too. Otherwise, whoops, again, you may have used something with a different name. And if you did, it's fine, but you've got to link it up to the right thing. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So it's time to come in then and actually start writing some code. Okay? So what we're going to do, okay, is now, because I don't want you to, if the code exists, I want us to be able to use it. Does that make sense? So I guess you are going to have to go out to this site that's out here just so we can grab the code. All right, and we're not going to grab this stuff yet. We're actually not going to grab this stuff. Where's the rest of it? Oh, come on, where is that? Well, I thought that it was put in here, so let me check. Okay. All right. This isn't much. I'll type it in with you. We'll have to type in about a half dozen lines of code. We'll be able to copy a bunch of this stuff later, but let's just do it like this now. Okay? So, jump back into here. All right. So, right under this recycler view here, okay, we're going to do some of the other stuff that we're working with. All right, and some of this stuff, it's going to look a little different because it's handled different. We're used to using that find view by ID, like we've got. We're going to be actually changing and doing some different stuff with IDs in just a little bit. Okay, so we've got that, and now we're going to say RecyclerView dot set has fixed size. Okay, and we are going to set that to true. Now, if you go and look through the documentation from Android, that doesn't mean that you can't change the size. Did you hear me? Because we are going to do that. If we wanted to add another president, let's say, or we decided we didn't want a certain president, or whatever, or maybe we skipped one originally, something like that, we could go back in there and we could change it. All right, but what it says is, you put that in there because it improves performance, all right? And you're like, how? I'm not sure, but it's just boilerplate code that you put in because it improves performance. All right, now we're going to tell it here to use a linear layout manager. And that's just the way that the stuff is laid out in here. By default, this is the way you do it. So we say layout manager equals new linear layout manager, and it needs to know the context or where you're doing it, so we should be able to put in just this. Okay? And again, all we're doing here is we're setting stuff up. We're not doing anything else. All right? Now we're telling the recycler view dot set layout manager And we're telling it to set it to the one we just made, Layout Manager. So again, there's not a really great explanation of exactly what's going on here, just so you know. All right. So now, 2 more lines. First, we have to specify an adapter. So we'll just use what they have, which is M-adapter. That's the name we gave it. Equals new. Now, we could call it my adapter. I just don't like that. Why don't we call it President Recycler, President Adapter. How about that? President Adapter. All right, and we're going to use it on the President list. Now we're getting an error. It's to be expected. That doesn't exist yet. So don't worry about that. We'll fix the error literally in a matter of seconds. All right, and RecyclerView dot set adapter to M adapter. All right, so what are we doing here? I mean, what the heck is going on? All right, well, again, starting with right here, what happens is by default it lays this stuff out in a linear layout. It's just the way that it is set up in there. Can you change it? Yeah. You typically don't set it like to a constraint layout. And literally, linear just means literally you can put stuff line by line. It used to be the default in here, which is the reason I think that they're using it still in here, but they changed it to make it constraint because people complained that linear was too hard to use. The funny thing is now many people are complaining that constraint layout is too hard to use. So there's no way to win. You can't keep everybody happy. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard that, but true consensus is the act of pissing people off equally. You know what I'm saying? And I've watched, you know, my wife will laugh because I'll watch old Law and Order episodes and stuff on TV. And I remember one when the judge said no to McCoy, and he got real mad. And the other attorney, the defense attorney, was real happy. And he goes, "Oh, wait a minute." And then he said something to him. And then he was real mad. McCoy was happier, and he said, "Good. You're both equally upset." That's consensus. So what I'm saying is they can't, that's with programming, that doesn't happen. You don't come to a consensus. So we're using a linear layout manager and we're setting the recycler view basically to use that. We're specifying an adapter rather, and we're telling the recycler view to use that. All right. So that's all I want to do right now. But if I take my mouse and put it here, it says it cannot resolve this symbol. All right. And it says show context actions. Well, what do we want to do? We actually want to choose that first one that says create class president adapter. And I do want to mention this to you because it's important. You'll notice that there is more than one option there. The second one would literally take and create that new class that we want right inside of this class. We don't want that. All right? But, I mean, could we do that? I suppose. But we don't want to do that. That's all. All right. So we want to create a new presidential class. So it says, fine. Where's the destination for that? Where do you want it to go? Does that make sense? Well, we want it to go right where it is. So up here, when you look, this is a class, our add or edit president. This is a class, our main activity. This is a class, our president. So if you click OK, and my mouse froze. Come on. Good. There it is. You click OK. Now there's another one up there. Hopefully you can see that. All right, I'm going to have to make this a lot bigger. But there it is right there, President Adapter. Okay? Now, I will tell you that even if you read, I can give you a bunch of references on this. And even if you read every reference, you're still going to be confused. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Now, my guess is today, I think we're not going to finish this, but we're going to make a big dent in it. I've got a program that I did that's at home. So today I'm going to have to bring both machines home because it's on the old machine, which is now my machine in here, but where I went back and commented the wazoo out of virtually every line that's in there to try to explain what was happening. And I know when I did that, at least most of the students last semester said, oh, that makes more sense. So I'm going to try to find that, and I'm going to grab those comments, and I'm going to put them into my copy, all right? And I'm going to give you copies of the comments too. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you a copy. So what I'm saying is we're not going to put a lot of comments in this file, but I will add comments to it. Make sense? I've got, probably shouldn't say this, but I don't think I'd get in any trouble for saying it, but I'm just going to, just in case. Turn that back on. Son of a gun. All right. So we came in and we created our new class, because I want to just say this for completeness. So we went back in there and did all this. We added all this stuff. That's right there. All right? And don't worry about there being an error there, etc. All that stuff hopefully is going to work its way out in just a bit. But one of the things that happened in here was we created a new adapter right there. All right? When we created the new adapter, we told it we wanted to create it as another class. So we're out here right now. This is what we've done thus far. We added to this these two lines. We moved this down, and we added context into here and just added these two lines right here into our constructor. All right. So we wanted to say public class, president adapter extends RecyclerView.adapter. That's all perfect. Now we have to put more in here though. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over two lines. You hear me? So I'm going to put this, but I'm going to hit enter then so I can put it on a new line. Hopefully what I just said makes sense. So we want to say in here, we got to use the same name we used right here, which is president adapter. Yeah, whatever. So president adapter. What the heck just happened? I don't know. All right. And then we have to put in dot my view holder. And that was wrong. Now, let me see if I can get it on the same line, just because it'll make it easier for you to see what the heck's going on. All right, so I think this is correct. Let me check my notes here. Public class, president adapter extends RecyclerView dot adapter, and then inside of here, president dot, or the name of the adapter dot my view holder. Now, without even doing anything, you want to take any wild guesses as to why the my view holder is in red? Because we didn't make it yet. All right, so I'm going to come in and I'm hoping it's going to put it right there. So right mouse click on here, and it says show context actions. We want to create this, but let's look at what's in here. Create class my view holder, create a enum, no. Create interface, no. Implement methods, we're going to do that in a minute. All right, make it abstract, no. I think this one will work. There it is. So I chose the first one. With me? All right. Now, it still didn't get rid of the error. And the reason that it didn't get rid of the error, all right, the reason it didn't get rid of the error is because we have to implement the methods. We're going to do that in a minute. Just so you know, we're going to do that in just a minute. But before we do, I've got to kind of backtrack for a second, because what we need is we need the name of everything that we put into our recycler view. In other words, I'm going to come over here to res, come on, and the layout, and I'm going to go into our one president. This is the thing we did yesterday. Okay, I want these names. So, IV president, TV RV first name, TV RV last name, TV RV served. With me? Okay. So, I'm going to make those inside of the view holder. So, image view, IV president, I think that's what it was. And then we had text view, and it was TV RV first name, text view, We can always go back if I made any mistakes and fix it later. TVRV last name and text view TVRV served. I think those are all correct. Okay? As always, we get this. Put your mouse there. Alt, Enter. Fix that one. Alt, Enter. Fix that one. Okay? All right. So we've got public class, my view holder. All right? But guess what? We're going to have problems because my view holder by itself is stupid. And what I mean is, it's actually supposed to be a child class. Because RecyclerView has a class called ViewHolder, and it's got a bunch of the stuff in it that we're going to need in my ViewHolder. And if you go, I don't know what you mean, it means we've got to come in here. Oh, come on. I tried to, cord this thing up so it wouldn't have junk all over the place, but it's not working. Hopefully that'll fix it. All right. So we want to come in here and we want to say public class my view holder, and we want to say in here that it extends RecyclerView dot view holder. All right. Now again, it's giving us errors. It's like, hey, you didn't have these errors before. We're going to fix those in just a minute. All right. One of the reasons it's giving us an error in here right now is if you remember that typically when you create a class in Java, one of the things that you do is you generate a constructor for the class. We don't have one. Now, probably, I don't know if I can go in here, show context actions, create constructor. See that? See what I'm saying, Keegan? All right, I'm going to choose that. So there's my constructor. All right. So far at least, everything is looking all right. Okay. So we've got public, view holder, all this stuff in here. Super. All that means is this line here means call the constructor for this. Means call the parents, basically call the parents constructor. Okay? All right. So there's a few things that we have to do now. We're going to work with these things. But instead of saying, well, let's just do it. And so after we call that, we're going to use all of these. So IV president equals, now we're used to just saying find view by ID, all right? But we have to say item dot find view by ID. Because this is an item that's in our recycler view. All right, and this is r.id.iv president. So hopefully looking at this, you can see you don't have to make those names the same. They could have been, that could have said A, we could have named the first one A, the next one B, etc. We could have done that. But by doing it like this, at least in my humble opinion, it makes it much easier to see what correlates with what. All right, so TVRV first name equals, we got first name, we got last name, and we got served, right? Item view dot find view by ID r.id dot TV, and I guess in there we called it just, there it is, TVRV first name. And let's do the last name. What I did there. I don't even know what the hell that is, or how to get rid of it, to be honest with you. Well, that's nice. Oh, whatever it is, it's going to go down there for now. TVRV last name. Okay. And then finally TVRV served. And that's going to equal item view dot find view by ID r.id dot TVRV served. All right. It's good. Okay. Now, let's go back and take a look at these errors. Okay. Well, what we're doing here, if you look, because we're going to get rid of some of them now, but we're saying this extends the RecyclerView's adapter, my view holder class. And my view holder is the one that has those 3 different methods that we talked about yesterday. All right. So, right mouse click on there, show my context action, and now choose the first one again that says implement methods. Everybody, you're both with me? Okay. And we could choose, make sure all 3 of them are chosen. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back and do it again later. All right. So, okay. And now they're all here. Now, is this complete? Hell no. We have to put code in for all of them. But it's now getting there. So what does it do? By default, notice this is the create. It just returns null. It's not doing anything. This is just returning 0. And this isn't doing anything at all because it's a void. So there's no return. There's no anything there. Okay, so let's start putting in some code. The easiest way to do this is to start with item count and just return president list dot size. All right. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Just so you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But what if the size? What if it doesn't exist yet and somehow this gets called? All right. It could potentially blow up the program. Okay. So what I've seen it written as is this: if size. Oh wait, what is it? It's get item count. So you know what? It should work fine. I don't want to put in extra code and then have it break. Okay? All right, so that's the size. So that's one of the 3 things we had to do. That's good. The bad news is the other stuff that we've got to do has got a lot more code in it, as you'd probably guess. All right, so let's go up to the onCreate, which is on the top. The order in which you put these does not matter, just so you know. This is the order that they get put in by the system, but if you wanted to move these around, you could do that. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to just, you don't have to, but I'm going to hit enter there because I want to be able to see everything. That's all. All right. Now, we are going to do a return on the end, but we're not going to return no. I'm going to leave that there right now because otherwise that's going to turn red too. But we're going to put in our code now for this. All right. So, view equals layout inflator. We're going to go over all of it in just a minute. Not from parent dot get context dot inflate. I'm going to run out of room here. I'm just telling you right now. Either I'm going to have to make my screen real short because this is all basically one line. All right, dot inflate r dot layout dot r dot layout dot one president, because that's what we called it, comma parent, comma false. That's everything. Now, see if we can put, if it's possible, to move this over different lines. When you want something, this is going to not be a great explanation. A little bit later, either today or tomorrow, we're going to add a menu to this. All right. When you add a menu, you have to basically set it up after you've got everything set up to actually put it there, put it into action. You have to call what's called a menu inflator. We're doing the same thing here with our layout. We're telling it basically to inflate. Imagine you're blowing up a kiddie pool. Kind of what we're doing here. That's not a great example, but hopefully you have a little bit of an understanding of what I'm saying here. Now, so it's view equals layout inflator dot from, and probably you might be able to go back to that site I gave you before and start copying some of that. I don't know. All right. So that's everything, and hopefully you've got all that. All right. So next line, my view holder, and usually it's called holder, equals new my view holder, and you pass in a view. Okay, and instead of returning null, you return holder. All right, so we're inflating the view and then we're returning it. Now, again, as I told you, and I'm going to say it again, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to look on this machine, because I went back and went out to all the documentation and tried to get comments. I commented almost every line. Instead of this being 100 lines, it's more like 300 lines or whatever. And you don't have to use it, but at least you'll be able to read it, and hopefully then it'll make a little bit more sense to you as far as what's going on. All right? So this is for creating, look at it as it's creating each president. All right? This is giving us a presidential count, and this is the binding. This is the glue, so to speak. Now, we're going to put in 2 lines, then we're going to put in another line that isn't going to work. All right? And we'll have to go out to the internet to make it work. Right? I'll show you that in just a minute. So, notice here, we got a holder, which is basically this holder here. All right? So, what do we want to do? We want to say holder dot, let's see, what do we want here? Okay. Let's see, we've got, what do we have in here? We've got an ID, we've got the first name, we've got the last name, etc. So let's just start with TV, RV. So these are the ones that we're concerned with right now. Oh, geez Louise. Holder dot TV, RV, and I want first name. You don't have to do it in this order, but it sure makes sense to do this. Dot set text, president list, dot get position, get position, dot get name, get first name. This is pretty cool. I'm going to go over it with you in just a second. All right, but let's put in the next line, because guess what? It looks the same except it's the last name. All right. So now, what I want you to understand, this get first name and this get last name, if you didn't understand it from before, what that's doing is it's going on to that president class that we created yesterday, and there's the get first name, there's the get last name. That's what it's calling. So in other words, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, you have used this class here to fill up that president list. Now we want you to go and, based on the position, meaning based on whichever president we're currently working with, go out and get their first name, go out and get their last name. So the idea is we've already built this, but now we want to make sure we're associating the right president name, etc., the right everything, all right, the right everything with this. All right, there's one more line that we can put in here. Holder dot TV RV, and it's served dot set text president list dot get, again, position dot get served. And I'm not going to show it to you, but it's the same thing. It's getting that from the president class. So now we should have accounted for the first name, the last name, and when they serve. And again, just to go back here and show you this. So we now have the first name, the last name, and served. What we don't have yet is the image. All right? So we're going to do this, and when we do this, we're going to set it up, and we'll get it to work. Okay, we will. But when we run it then, we're going to get an error. And so if we start getting errors in this stuff, don't let that throw you, is what I'm saying. Okay, it's not only could it happen, it is going to happen. I'm just telling you. So what we want to use is we want to use an external software package, because Android by itself has software built into it that works with images, but to my knowledge it doesn't have any software itself built into it to work with getting images from the internet. All right, and that's what we want. We could, if we decided to later, go out and totally change the images we're using, etc., if we wanted to do that. All right. So what we're going to do in order to do this, let me go back to presidential adapter. Again, this is going to give me an error because we're going to use a package that's called glide, G-L-I-D-E. So I'm going to type in here glide dot, and notice it's not finding anything because it doesn't know that glide exists. And I'm going to just type in the word with. And now it's giving me an error because it's saying I don't know what this is. So if I right mouse click on it and I say show content actions, wow, create class glide, no. Everything that's in there, we don't want to do any of it. We don't want to do any of it. All right? Rather, what we want to do, and I'll show you again the URL because it's the other one that we're looking at today. And that is here. Nice thing is it's a fairly small URL. It doesn't look like, oh, it's the wrong one. Of course, I grabbed the wrong thing. Where is it? Come on, there it is. So if you want to bring this up on yours, and you may want to, it's right there. That I should be able to blow away the hay up. So there it is. Now, I don't know if I've done this with you before or if you've ever done this by yourself, but what we're doing is we're going out to GitHub. All right? And we're going out to GitHub and we're telling it to, so all the code for it is out there. We're not doing a lick with the code. Okay? You both able to get out there? All right. So we're going to do this part and we're taking a break regardless of what time it is. So, probably right now where you are is right at the top, which is right here. So it shows the entire repository. We don't care about that. We want to go down further. Because after that, as you work your way down, it shows you how to use it. All right? And the line that we care the most about is this line. We'll find it. So it says, how do you use it? Okay? We want this line under how do you use glide, the one that's right there. See this? I don't know if I can blow that up or not. I guess I can. So it's under how do you use glide. Of course, I lost my place. But it's that line there. Can you both find that? All right. So copy that to the clipboard. It's still not going to work. But it's pretty close now. Okay? Copy that to the clipboard. All right. Paste it. If you've got that glide width, just totally replace it with this. Okay? Now, one thing is, Well, ours is not called image view, correct? I think ours was called IV president, but I'm not positive. Well, it was up here, wasn't it? I don't know. I'm going to just, for now, I'll just leave it the way it is. All right, don't worry about it. We're going to fix that too. Okay. So why is there still a problem? Well, if we look here, it says cannot resolve symbol glide. All right, do you want to create a field? No. More actions. Let's see what's there. Create in a presentation. This is all local stuff because by default, there's not an option in here that says, hey, go out to the internet and see if you can find what you need in order to do this. Does that make sense? It's not in there. The good news is, in the page we were just at, it is in there. So go back again to your page. We could have done this first. I'm just having you do it in this order, but we could have done it in the other order. Now what I want you to do is go back. I think it's going back up. All right. And we're going to find it. Okay, that's near the top, isn't it? Yep. All right. So someplace real close, there it is. We need these two lines, these two dependency lines. Now, just to make sure you're doing the right ones and you're in the right place, it's under where it says, so after you've got the logo that says glide, there'll be something that says download. Can you find that? And under that, we want the Gradle. We're not, Maven is another way that you can use this, but we're not even going to talk about that. We're using this. Okay? So, make sure you grab both of them, copy it to the clipboard. Got it? All right. Then, we got to go back to our program. And now we want to go in under Gradle scripts. And under Gradle scripts, we want to find the module one, which is the second one down, buildGradle.module, right there. Open that up. Find your dependencies, which are near the bottom. All right. And after this last implementation that's here, I think you can put it at the very bottom, but I'm going to put it here. I don't think it really matters, but I'm going to paste that in. So I'm telling it now to use glide. All right. Now, mine says this, and I think yours will too. Does yours say sync now up on top? Okay, click that button. What happens is, when you make any change to a Gradle file, your program gets out of sync. So what we're telling it there is, hey, sync it back up, please. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's see. Now, I'm going to jump back again so we can close this file. In fact, it's a good time to do a file save all. And I'm going to close this Gradle file. You shouldn't keep that open unless you really need it. All right, now we got a good thing. Believe it or not, it still looks the same. Watch. Notice now if I right mouse click and I do a show content actions, import class. See that? That's what we want. And now it's going to fix it. Okay, now, gave us a different error. Now the this is wrong. Okay, why is the this wrong? Because it wants a context. So we can say this dot context. That should fix that. All right. And now in here, we want the name of our actual image view that we used. All right. Well, the problem is, when we created all this stuff earlier, we didn't bring in that image view. When we brought in all of this stuff here, where was it? There. Oh, we did. We've got IV president. Okay, so I'm going to try putting that in. We might get an error. If we do, don't worry about it. All right. So, right mouse click, show my actions, create local variable, no. Create field in the adapter, no. Create parameter. I'm just going to leave it there. It's okay that it has the error. All this stuff eventually works its way out. All right. Now, I'm just about to take our break. I'm jumping back here. And remember this? This is the only error we have in our main activity. And guess why we have this error? Because it needs a context. So it needs the word this. Okay? Now, I have absolutely no idea. We might get errors up the wazoo. I have no idea, but I'm going to try to run it. Then we're taking our break. Don't worry if it looks really funky. If we do get output, don't let it worry you at all. Oh, I still have that one. So it's not finding that, so it's going to give me that error. I'm going to have to go and look at that right now. I'm trying to figure out what the problem with that is. Darn it. All right, let's take a break. It's 1:06. Let's come back at 1:20, please. Okay.
Is an activity where this RecyclerView.set has fixed size true. The set has fixed size.
Okay. Right there. That, you've got an error right there?
Yeah, the set has fixed sizes is what I'm getting error from.
Did you say size or sizes on yours?
No, I have what you have.
Okay. What if you put your mouse over it, what's it giving you for an error?
Cannot resolve method.
All right.
The set has fixed sizes.
Whatever this here, did you type in? There's no mistake in the word RecyclerView, I take it, right? Okay. Try to then go in there and remove all this.
Okay.
So you've got just RecyclerView. Okay? Then put in a period. Does it bring up IntelliSense when you do that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Type in set.
Okay.
Okay. Now, do you see a has fixed size in there?
No, I've lost after I typed in set, the IntelliSense went up.
Okay, it's not recognizing something. Now, on yours, did you use the names I gave you yesterday, or are you using your own names?
I'm pretty sure I used yours.
Okay.
Now that you mentioned it, up where we put the private RecyclerView and RecyclerView,
Mm-hmm.
I have an error on the RecyclerView after private. Right there.
Right here?
Yeah. Yeah, the second line is it's in purple, but the one right after private with the capital R.
All right. Do you have these two things at the top of yours? Those two import statements? You do. Okay, well, let's take a break. I will take a look at it right now. So, do a file, save all. See after the break if we can fix that, because it'll be the first time we can run it. That's kind of neat.